Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Alice City Council meeting, our budget workshop. Today is Tuesday. It is 10:04. I will call this meeting to order. Okay, and we will start with our invocation by Mrs. Bowen. I didn't ask.
Sure, no
If that's
problem.
okay. And then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Councilman, Mr. Ron Brook.
Sure. Okay. Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day you have provided. We thank you for the many blessings that you give us day in and day out. We ask that you continue to be with our city, Lord. Be with this council as we make decisions that affect not only one, but all. Lord, continue to guide us, protect us, and lead us in the direction that you want us to be led. In your holy, precious name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag, hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will move on to agenda item number 2, which is our citizen comments and public announcements. It does not look like we have any citizen comments. I will go to our council members if you have any announcements. Mrs. Bowen?
No, not today. Thank you.
Mr. Burke?
I have no comments.
Mr. Crisp?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a few comments real quick in regards to, I just wanted to take a moment to thank staff as we head into these budget workshops. We know y'all put a lot of time into it in order to present us with these budgets the way they have. But we also need to understand that, and I know that y'all have taken a lot of time over the past year in order to maintain a balanced budget and present us with budget adjustments as they came and were needed. And that's what we used in order for y'all, or y'all used in order to present this. So, it's just a matter of appreciating y'all in advance for the efforts that y'all put in. And it's not just our finance department. We need to remember that it comes down to all of our directors as well. And that really work hard in order to get us to where we're presented with this balanced budget that y'all already worked hard to do for us. So thank you for doing your work as well as you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also would like to thank staff and our city manager for all your hard work and presenting Mr. Esparza your transmittal letter. Thank you so much. As we move on in the budget workshop, I'm sure we're going to have some questions. But there's one thing also and an announcement that I'd like to make to the public, that there will be a back-to-school bash that the county will be conducting. I believe it's August 13th. I still don't have the details, and I'm sure there's going to be more details coming forward, but they also are going to have a vaccine clinic at that time. So we'll announce that further and give more information to the public. So at this time, we will move on to agenda item number 3, review and discussion of 2020-2021 fiscal year revised City of Alice budget and 2021-2022 fiscal year proposed City of Alice proposed budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Last regular City Council meeting, I presented you with a balanced budget. There's some things that we're going to try to work on in the next week and a half to maybe add a few things that we didn't include in here. But we did want to have a balanced budget. I do want to point to a few key things. One is the collection rate that we assigned to this is 93%. I mean, we've been as high in the past as 100% collection rate, and then slowly throughout the years, we were more conservative, knowing that not all property taxes get collected, and so now we're at a 93, which is a pretty conservative rate percentage. Sales tax also, we were conservative on that. We dropped down to $440,000 a month. Last year was $450,000, and we dropped it at $120,000. So it's a kind of a big number to drop, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be in the red as we go through the year. You never know what's going to happen. And when COVID hit, we were having to make adjustments and all that. So that's reflected in this budget. We, some things that we've changed here, we added an additional clerk for inspections in this budget. We moved 2 clerks back to the library from utility billing. Last year we took them out, but we do have to have some funding there to keep accreditation in grants, so that's in there. The command center expenses were moved to the fire department, except for the electricity and sirens. This does include a salary increase for the police department of 3% for new officers coming in and a 1.5% for the higher rank. And remember that we negotiate, because we're a civil service and collective bargaining city. We have to negotiate, and us, it's every, we have every 3 years. Our agreements are typically 3 years, and part of the negotiations with both the police and fire were wanting to curb overtime, wanting to curb expenses. They do have increases there, but a lot of it was mitigated through overtime cuts and changes. And the last meeting is when you guys approved the fire department fire association collective bargaining agreement. So the fire department has a increase also, but we also included a $75,000 buyback. So what we were doing on the fire, we have holiday accrual that is on the books unfunded. And one of the things that I wanted to accomplish this on this agreement was to cap that exposure and to kind of get rid of it. And so we agreed to put $75,000 each year for 4 years to be able to, for our firefighters to buy back that holiday accrual and also at the same time cap it. A lot of times it was used a little bit like stock, where somebody comes in and they keep on accruing that and they're here for 20 years and their hourly rate changes drastically from when they leave, and so they agreed to that, and it's kind of a mutual beneficial thing for both the city and for them. And so they did see increases, but on the fire side they did agree to waive working out of classification, which is a right that they have under civil service. And so that not only costs us money to the tune of sometimes $80,000 to $100,000 a year, but it also is, an accounting nightmare to try to track that and from our finance department and also work that. So they have those built-in increases there. This budget does not include step increases, which are frozen. We've been working on that after presenting this budget as we go through it, and I'd like to be able to add step increases back, and that's something that I'm going to be looking for y'all's approval probably at the next budget meeting as far as how to move forward and look at that. But we are looking at, and we have some preliminary numbers on what that's going to cost, but I'd really like to do that for our employees. That's been frozen for a long time, and so it's not on here, but we're going to try to add that as we move forward. The utility fund here, we have the payment, interest-only payment for the new meters, and the golf course fund, we entered into a lease agreement, so that's going to save the golf course about lease agreement for the golf carts, save the golf course about $10,000 a year. We did budget the same $76,000 for the contribution for the YMCA for the multi-use. And on streets, we have put the asphalt zipper to work. We've got 2 streets under our belt. We're going to begin working on the third one. We had Hobbs, Kennedy Street, and Hub Street is next. And then we're going to get to Highland. So we'll get to Highland hopefully before the end of this fiscal year, and hope to do even more next fiscal year. So it'll be 4 under our belt this fiscal year, and hopefully try to get to 6 or so, right, Joe Signs, for next fiscal year. Yeah. What I'd like to do is go through the general fund and try to get to the solid waste and utility fund, and we can kind of go department by department. And we have a big portion of our finance department here for questions, and directors as well. And thank you for the compliments earlier, and to me and our staff, because our staff has done a tremendous job working on the budget. They start early. most of the people you see here have been here for a long time, so they know when to start, they know how to do it, and they spend countless hours. And I know sometimes when I'm trying to find finance, it's like, where are they? They're in the pit and working on the budget. It's like, wow, they're doing it a lot. They spend a lot of time. They get to hear all the directors, and then we go through it and figure out what we can do. Directors, are trying to work their departments as best they can. A lot of times we have limited resources, but they really care about their employees just like we all do. And, I think the step increases would be a big help, but we also need to improve on the capital side. And so we will be bringing kind of what we used to call a wish list of what the departments want for capital improvements. We don't have that here, but if I could turn to you go to page 4 on here. And I want to point something out, because this is something I want y'all to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this. Is on page 4 at the bottom, if you look at what we have under proposed, 2022 proposed, the last line on the bottom, we have 7.6 months of reserves and funded balance.
On
So
page
that's
4?
page 4.
Yes.
After tab 1, it'll be page 4. So recommended is about 3 months of reserves. We're kind of way past that. I have a comfort level, and then I have where I want to be. I would like to be at 9 months, and that's a pretty big number. Recommended is 3 months. 6 months to me is a comfort level. And so if you look at that, the difference between 7.6 and 6 months is about $1.6 million that we could transfer from funded balance to capital improvements. And so we have a working list of things that need to be replaced and improved, and so that's something that I want to give you guys for the next budget meeting once we get to that tab, to see if you guys are interested in doing that. 7.6 is a very good number. It's healthy. Not a lot of cities have that kind of reserves. We've been careful, and that's what we do, but we also know that things happen. I mean, this year, you had COVID last year, you had the freeze this year. You never know what's going to come forward, and that's why 3 months is recommended, but it almost seems like for us, we're 6 months would probably be something that we talked about in finance also, as far as a comfort level where we would be like, yeah, that's fine. If you give us 6 months, we're good. That gives y'all some money in us to be able to put into some needed capital improvements. So that's something that we'll be getting you guys as well. So, Vanessa, do you want to start with some of the summaries and numbers starting from tab 1?
Sure. We can start with the City Council Department on page 12. For Council's Department, there wasn't too many changes. The only thing we did add was maybe some travel in case some council members wanted to go to the TML conference, but there wasn't much of a difference in this department. I don't know if anyone has any other questions on.
Council, any questions? Mrs. Brown?
No, thank you.
Mr. Brown?
No.
Mr. Molina? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
And a lot of the departments kind of stay the same. There's a
Yeah.
few changes, and if there's a few changes that we're making, we'll certainly address them. I know there's a couple of things in the police department and administration, general services. So if there's a big change, either personnel or dollar amount, we'll talk to them.
The next department is the city clerk on page 14. There's really no changes on that department at all.
Council, you have any questions? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
No.
Mr. Burke? Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Vanessa, I do have a question on here on the 2021 and 2022, their subscription, it went up from 1,000 to 8,260. Can you tell me what that is? And also minor information tech equipment went from $18.98 to $100. And copier lease,
Okay, so on the subscriptions. To the subscriptions, we did add 2 new subscriptions to there. One was is it the Municode? Municode that they're required to, I believe, right, submit.
And we added mini docs.
Muni docs.
Mhm.
And then an ordinance one also.
TPIA software is also on there.
mini docs, Unicode.
And TPA.
And a TPIA software.
Okay.
And then the minor information, you said the minor information tech
Yeah, it went from $18.98 to $100. I just wanted to see what that was.
on 2020? See what we purchased in 2020.
That
We
would
might
be,
have purchased a piece of equipment, like it's
Okay.
usually a computer or a
An
tablet
iPad
or
or-
something
yeah.
like that, but we can see what exactly it was. And then the copier lease, that one is the copier actually assigned to city clerk. I think previously it was being recorded to general service, and we knew it was here in city clerk, so
Okay,
we're
so you just
allocating
moved-
it correctly
okay.
to the correct department.
Okay. And on membership dues and professional services, all that went down from, or where they moved to a different area?
I think, check on membership and dues, it might have been something was reclassed. It's going to be 5611.
Is that some of the stuff that we switched over to subscriptions? Because I know that we had some of that stuff before, and then some of it went back to the library, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, this is membership dues.
The
This
TML.
is,
TML membership dues, yeah.
oh, okay.
But were they distributed out?
It was TML.
It's TML? It was shifted to another department, or?
I'm not sure if it's an annual thing or maybe we moved it to another.
It may be a multi-year.
Oh, like this would, like it's due every 2 years or 4 years or something like that? Or what?
Well, I know the city clerk has one annually, but I know you have one that's kind of a large amount for the whole city.
Maybe that's the one. Yeah, I think this one was probably coded incorrectly in 2020.
So it's accounted somewhere else?
I believe so. We can double check.
Okay, you can just get back to us with that.
We'll check on that.
Okay.
Any other questions on the city clerk?
Any other questions, council? No. No.
Next, we have the administration department. We did add one more position, and I don't know if Mr.
yeah, we added a position, and we're working on the job description for it. We kind of have an idea of what we're trying to accomplish with it. We have a director of external relations, so we're looking at more of a planning position as well, public information, somebody to be really in charge of all our social media. And, you know, when we assign something, it's really, it all falls on the administration between Nellie and Odie and I on trying to keep track of everything that happens. And we're, you know, it's hard for us in the regular course of a day to work on those, but also looking at somebody to help oversee grants as well. I mean, we have a pretty good grant department, and it has one person in it, and it's hard for that person to try to find other grants that are out there because it's a working grant position. I mean, it's nonstop all day, and so, you know, we're looking at that, and also you know, having relationships with federal and state government relations, and as well as interlocal with things that we do with the county or, you know, other cities and things like that. So it's a really go-between to be able to free us up also to do more planning. I think that's where if we have a lack, it is that, you know, we need to do more planning on a lot of our departments and a lot of things that go on in the city. And that's going to help ease some of that. So any of these positions, that's kind of job number one on all, really these three is planning and then the job description.
If I may.
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
Mr. Sparza, Mike, you have a large number there, and I understand that if you find somebody that you're looking to do all three of those, it would probably really need that kind of a salary. Have we considered, or is there a consideration for third-party services doing any of these, fulfilling any of these roles? Because I know that the public relations things, we have had companies approach us in handling that, and I know that we would need an internal person to actually kind of start the process in some cases. The interlocal stuff, I mean, I'm just wondering if that's because trying to find somebody that's with the capability, the knowledge, and the willingness to do all three is going to be something in itself. And we've seen issues in finding personnel to begin with, and unfortunately, we've had some good people that we've lost, due to other opportunities or personal situations. But that seems like we're asking a lot of one position. Is that with the idea that maybe it could be broken out into a couple of different positions or third party, or are you just keeping you're just budgeting it, saying, hey, we're allocating this much money and we're going to figure it out because we know we need that?
Yeah, I think, what we're looking at, so right now, if you look at the way that our process works, so many things get channeled up into administration. And it's very difficult to keep track of everything that we're doing. And you guys, you see what happens to kind of when you come in, we're like 100 miles an hour every day. And so it's like and some things get bottlenecked in administration. You have a hose coming in and then it gets smaller because we don't have the people to take care of everything that happens. And sometimes things take a long time to get approved, or we're trying to get to it and we don't want things to slip through the cracks. So we want to open it up so there can be easier flow. And yeah, I think on the job description, I think we're adding a lot of things to it, but I think if we find we're going to fill it only if somebody can meet those qualifications and do that position. And so, but until then, we do what we're doing, which is just take it all in and do our best to get everything out the door.
Any other questions, Mr. Moody? Mr. Hart? Mrs. Bowen?
Can any of these tasks be given to other personnel, other employee personnel in any department, like
Well-
IT or?
Well, I mean, but and that's what's happening right now a little bit.
Okay.
So, we have IT kind of in charge of trying to get some simple thing like our app that we're trying to get, My Civic. We're almost there, but we're all trying to manage that. And I mean, and you guys have been gracious with us, giving us 2 positions in IT. We've had for a long time with just 1, but even 3 for an organization like ours and all the connectivity that we have. It's still a pretty tight number, so our IT department is stretched.
Okay.
And so things like that where we need to have somebody administratively also professional to be able to manage that task and also help. I mean, it's a working position, no doubt. I mean, all our positions in a city like ours are working. We don't have any position that's strictly just
Right.
planning or overseeing. Everybody's doing a big task. And so, I mean, we're doing that already.
Okay.
Handing it off.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I just have a question also. I do believe that some of these tasks are needed, and the grants especially, I know we need to go out for more, and there's a lot out there, especially now with some of the funds that are being channeled from
Right.
our government. The one thing that I would like to know is if we've gone to check as far as the salary scale, the pay scale, is that comparable to someone that may be doing some of these types of duties, or is there anything we can compare it to? That seems like an awful, a pretty high, hefty pay rate. Also, do we currently have these other positions filled? The project compliance administrator and the internal auditor, purchase administrator?
The
Yes.
internal auditor is, procurement administrator is Gabriel, so, but now he's our interim finance director right now, so that's filled. The project compliance is open, and we do need to fill that. You know, that's a lot of the personnel issues, a lot of special projects, the airport, things like that, and also keep track of everything we're doing, all the projects in the city. And so right now, you know, it's kind of like a little bit falling behind as far as tracking everything that we're doing. And so, yeah, we're still looking to fill that.
On the ones that are not filled, if I may ask if you could go back and just kind of see what that pay scale is, only because of our funds available and the need that we have in other departments.
We're a little bit unique, so what I looked at, I look at Kingsville, I look at Beeville sometimes, look at Corpus. Corpus is a little different, but it gives you kind of an idea where they are in some of the, some of these positions over there would be more of an assistant city manager position, which is going to be, in the, 160s, 180s, but it's a much bigger city. And here, it's not titled that, but a lot of the duties kind of fall within that. And so we kind of picked a number that we thought we'd be able to get somebody in to be able to fill that. And, if somebody needs to come to Alice or somebody's here, it kind of has to be worth it to do. And of course, there's expectations of professional experience and education and things like that.
Okay, just something, you can please look
Okay.
at that.
So you've done the research.
I've looked at it, not,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's already
So what is there to
done
look
it.
for?
I would just like for us to make sure that.
He just said he did, right? That's what you did, right? Did you call around?
Yeah,
And-
I mean, I looked at it, and I talked to former Kingsville city manager, also talked to some people in Corpus and get an idea of where we need to be.
Yeah. So you did that research. Okay.
Okay.
General service, this one also didn't really have that many changes. This one, pays the, insurance for the year, like our big payments, that comes out of here. Our, external auditor, a lot of stuff that goes on here at City Hall comes out of this department. But we didn't really have too many changes on here. It's pretty much the same.
One of the things we're looking to, there's an assistant, we have a general maintenance technician, and that's a person that does a lot. We created that 2 years ago, and that person does just about anything we need him to do. Construction repairs, anything, and really pays for itself over and over. Just, we're doing a lot of the work that we need to do instead of contracting it out. But one of the things that happens, and I know how it is, because any of the directors will say, well, let's call him to do this work. Let's call him to do this work, and he's stretched really thin. He can really never get to all the little things that need to get done. So we were looking at and we'll bring that back at our next one also, but looking at hiring an assistant for that to be able to, some of the smaller tasks, repairs that need to get done, leave him there, and leave another person there while it's happening, because we do have a need for, a lot of our buildings are old, a lot of repairs need to get done, and, without a doubt, having another person as an assistant under a maintenance technician would save us money. And, our maintenance tech has saved us quite a bit of money on just service calls alone. And a lot of times, you don't need a service call. If we need a professional to look at something, electrical, plumbing, AC, we run it through here, and if it's not something we can do here, we outsource it. In the past, before we had this position, it was always outsourcing it, and that gets pretty expensive. So we're hoping to be able to build this into the budget, and we're working on that right now. And we'll have this part revised for you guys at the next budget meeting.
Okay. On here, council, do y'all have any other questions? I'm sorry. Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
I'm good, thank you.
No,
Mr.
ma'am.
Burke? Ms. Owen?
No, thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to ask on here, let's see, there was bank charges. Can you tell us what those are for? And this, I know that a while back we had a lot, and I saw, I think, a summary where we were paying a lot of bank charges, so I was wondering if we looked at that.
Those are like the credit card charges,
okay.
and it just depends. It's a lot of credit card, and then there is a client analysis fee for the really all the bank accounts, and it kind of does funnel through just the general fund, kind of pays for most of them. But that's mainly what it is. It's mainly credit card fees.
Okay. And on the fuel, it went from $11,537 to $0. Did we just move that over to another
There
department?
was,
The unit is actually in administration,
Okay.
so we've moved the expenses there to properly
Okay.
record them.
Could I ask a question,
Sure.
since you
And
have
then-
bank
Yes.
charges? The last time I was serving on council, that was the time there was a change, well, maybe not a change, there was a considered change in depositories. And the contract, when does that expire again, and when is that up for renewal? Because there was supposed to be some savings to us. I was
Yeah.
wondering if that
I
materialized.
think
or-
it's next year, right? This is
I
the
believe-
last year of our contract with
Yes.
Wells Fargo.
we will.
Yeah, actually, you and I were on the council
Yeah,
the other time,
yeah.
we were looking at,
And then when we moved it is when it came over there, yeah, so,
Yeah.
but it's been around for a long time. But that was tens of thousands when that was
Yeah.
going on. It wasn't even this, and this is more fees as opposed to that. So, yeah, but that was a
That-
huge number back then because we had, what, 20-something accounts? Yeah. at
That was
time.
in 17, yes.
Yeah.
that RFP process, actually just what it did, saved us money with Wells Fargo. There was a lot of charges, and then they were giving us credits on things also. So there's some charges that get offset as well. But at that time, it was Prosperity did offer a zero fee. Not going to pay any interest on stuff they have, but it was a zero fee, and that was interesting thing to look at. But we are going to have to put it out again this fiscal year. So we'll see some changes there. But, and there, we are getting paid some interest, and that offsets some of these charges. But then again, also something to consider, when you look at general service, the employees here, the custodian and general maintenance sec, but general services covers a lot of things. It's somewhere that gets tied to all the general fund. And that's why it'll have some bigger expenses.
Okay.
And then on page 19, on incident repairs, it went from $10,247 to $0. Just wanted to know, what is that?
That's incident is just maybe something was damaged, and kind of instead of setting it off as a claim, if it's something we can handle or we can repair, we will. So we didn't budget anything. I'm probably hoping nothing happens.
I guess that's normally something you won't budget for. If it happens, it's kind of like an unexpected expense.
Yeah, just
It's
wanted
kind
to
of
know
how
if
we
that
view
was
it.
something we,
Yeah, because
we
we didn't know,
Anticipated.
we didn't budget it last year
Yeah.
either. We never budgeted. We
Okay.
actually used 10,000 last year. We didn't budget 10,000 last year.
That's
Okay.
2019, 2020, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, council members?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next we have, the Civil Service Department. This one's a fairly small department. We have two Civil Service Directors, Odie and Renee. Next year we didn't budget too much just because we already went through the contracts and the agreements in those last, is it 2 years, Odie? The agreements are for 2 years?
I want to say they did 1 to 3.
3
Three.
years? Okay. So we did put some in legal proceedings just in case there are some questions for the attorneys, but it shouldn't be anywhere near what we had originally budgeted.
Okay. Council, any questions on this? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
Mrs. Bowman?
No, thank you.
Okay.
The next department is the Command Center Administration. Now, this one, we did remove a lot of the expenses only because the Command Center is now Well, what was being used as the command center is now going to be a fire station, so really, the command center is kind of like the emergency management, so we only budgeted really truly emergency and management items here, which would be like the electricity for the sirens. If another storm or something comes, we did budget some items for supplies or services, but we didn't budget too much here because we only budgeted emergency management items here.
Council, any questions on this item? Mr. Chris? Mr. Molina? Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
I just wanted to ask on the, I know that we have someone looking at one of the sirens, a company, and should we kind of allocate a little something in case that does need to get repaired? I don't know.
Oh, I
If
didn't
we
realize
have-
that, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We have somebody allocated in Commissioner's budget already for
Okay.
that, and we're also in talks with the county, there's gonna be some cost.
Yeah,
Okay, awesome, thank you so much. Okay, Vanessa, thank you.
Okay, finance. I don't believe there was really anything new here. The same items. Software, we pay the appraisal district, but there wasn't anything really new in the finance department.
Council, any questions? Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Molina?
No,
Mr. Chris?
Just real quick, I noticed that we didn't have any real changes in it, but in regards to the budget, we did have a $28,000 increase in salaries. Are we shifting that around due to the new finance
Well, see, and
director
this was-
situation, or what are we making the adjustments there?
This was prior to, the news, so this was, before the changes kind of had happened, so I don't, I'm not too sure what's.
We haven't done that part
Okay.
yet.
All right, that's good enough. So we'll be seeing something more than likely on this, on the 10th? Okay, thank you. That was it, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else, any questions? Mr. Molina?
All fine.
Mr. Burke?
No.
And Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Next is the IT department. The only difference is we had added a salary, but it was already taken to council, so during the year, that's the increase for the salaries. Subscriptions went up as well, but that was just, what was this movement, right? There is a list of subscriptions though that we have for them, annual items that we have to pay.
It's probably CrowdStrike, right, Michael?
There's
One of the
several.
larger ones.
That's revised.
Council,
I don't have that list on me, I apologize.
Mr. Chris?
No.
Any questions? Mr. Molina?
No.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Vanessa, on the category 65, the cell phone service, it's at $14.91 in 2020 budget, but we don't have anything. Is that being charged elsewhere?
I think that was just, it was missed, it was an error, we'll add it in.
Okay.
So, yeah, sorry. I
That's okay.
apologize. The next department we have is the Human Resource Department. Again, there wasn't much change on this department. Nothing really to discuss, and I don't know if there's any questions.
Council, any questions on this department? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
no.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, okay, thank you.
Okay. And we did have a salary increase, so was that we,
I believe those were taken to council, at the beginning of the year.
okay.
So I guess the differential that we're seeing here and that is, is the fact that the revised budget takes
Reflects.
into account only the time period that that person has actually received the paycheck, while the actual proposed budget is a full year's worth of income.
Yes.
So that's why
We're
we're
seeing
seeing
a
a differential
difference.
there.
Okay. And on medical evaluation and services, that was 11,540, and we put 0 for that one.
I believe on that one, we decided we were going to put it in, putting those expenses in their departments.
Those are pre-employment screenings.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Council, any other questions? Okay.
The next department we have is the fire department. I'll let Patrick probably talk a little bit more. But I believe this year there was a 0% increase, but we did have other items that we added per your agreement. And then, like Mr. Esparza mentioned, this did include a buyback for the holiday. Is there anything else?
Pretty much try to leave it the same. Really didn't do any changes to it.
Oh, well, we did add the command center, though, another another building.
Yeah, you'll see some increases for that and for the additional building. So you'll see a little bit of increases there, but it's pretty much just done it. Because we capitalized the other request and equipment.
That's in the capital list, yes.
Yeah, it's not reflected.
You'll see some requests and once we get to capitals and all that.
Sure. So on the capital outlay, you say we'll see that later?
Yes,
So-
it has some-
Okay.
There's not included in the book, it's not included in the book y'all received, but we have
Okay.
a separate list.
I appreciate it, thank you. Mr. Chris?
No, I'd just like to commend staff again, and Mike and Chief and everybody, when it comes to the negotiations with the fire department, and I want to thank the firefighters for their understanding, in these times and everything, because we are seeing a drop of about $150,000, $175,000 in overtime, because they're working with us and making the schedule work properly. So, good on them, good on y'all, thank you.
Council, any other questions? Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Mooney?
Thank you.
And Mr. Chris? Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next department we have is Municipal Court. Not too many changes here. The only maybe one that stands out is the software agreement. We did fund more in their department. They do have a technology fund that usually, based on the amount that they collect, they usually try and pay that themselves, but we budgeted a little bit more because we didn't believe they were gonna have sufficient amount to pay it out of their technology fund. So there was an increase in that line item, but other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Council, any questions? Mrs. Bowen?
Or we took out the collection.
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Mooney?
No.
Mr. Chris?
This is, we did shift the collections in-house from the previous years where we had contracted out, correct?
Well, we stopped using, was it Lineberger, yes, we did stop.
I did see the savings there, so, okay, so we're doing that in-house now.
Well, no, challenges, I know.
Well, so.
I know.
That was,
So what we actually did is, we'll still have expenses from Lineberger, but what we did is we moved it to zero out the revenue that we're collecting for that. So you'll see in the revenue, it kind of zeroes out, and yeah, so that's what we did.
oh, okay.
It
But
was-
as the year goes on in the budget itself, we'll see an income and.
It'll be a wash, it
Yeah,
should be a
it'll-
wash
it'll
on the
end up
revenue
zeroing
side.
back out.
It was
Okay.
requested by the department that expense in other departments, other cities don't have an expense item, a line item for the collections. So we moved it to the revenue, so it should just be a wash when they do pay.
And it is a collection that they receive to pay it,
Yes,
so if
it's a percentage that they collect from
Right,
the
right.
fines that they use that to pay the
See, and we
collection.
don't even see that money anyway,
No,
because they
we
only
don't.
issue us the X percentage that is
Exactly.
ours.
Yeah.
So
So
there
this
is,
year, we've decided to move it so that it reflects and it washes out properly.
okay.
And we didn't rehearse that.
Thank you. Thank you, council. No other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Next, we have the police department. I'll let Chief Garcia go a little more into detail, but we did make some changes. We did give an increase for the officers about 3%, and then the higher rank officers was 1.5%. We changed the cadet program a little bit, and then we have another new officer. And that's all I can remember.
That's basically it. I think you're gonna see, in some areas, you see a slight increase, and it's due to the collective bargaining agreement. A lot of it, naturally, because that was something that was agreed upon, and we pushed forward with it, and so you'll see an increase there. However, we've come around in other areas, like our overtime. I think we're asking for 150,000, and when this past year was 215,000, or 200,000. So you'll start seeing decreases in other areas, just to try to make up for the rise in costs, especially with the collective bargaining agreement. So we're doing our best to.
Also to remember what we talked about on the collective bargaining, so, we went in there with the goal of cutting expenses, and both associations, we talked about it, and we did something different this year also, not bringing both sides attorneys in the beginning, just at the end to look at the contract, and it was a lot nicer atmosphere. We sat in my office with the associations and with our finance director and cut through a lot of the things that we needed to cut through. But on the police side, which we're talking about, the goal of cutting overtime, I know one of the reasons we had so much is because we were short-staffed. And, the association agreed, let's raise our base pay, because we're competing with all these other cities. And they increased the base pay to 3%, which doesn't affect anybody that's here. It's affecting people that come in new. And they said, we'll take a lower 1.5, and on top of that, we'll try to curb overtime, so it'll have pretty close to not a big effect on fiscal impact on us. And so that was kind of the whole goal of our negotiations. And we're almost there getting fully staffed. I mean, there's always vacancies, people leaving, people coming in, but where are we right now, Chief, on that?
So we still haven't filled Lieutenant or Tim Leges's position.
Okay.
We had to retire. But however, we have somebody in the academy, one of our locals. So he'll be graduating in January, so we'll fill that position, and we'll have one more position vacant for our next.
So we're getting there. And, and when we're very short-staffed and missing a lot of officers, the overtime is good and a lot of the police officers enjoy it, but what happens is after a while, you have to take a break. And, they were kind of exhausted and coming up with an idea of let's entice entry level to come in. That's a very good plan. So, go ahead, Chief, sorry.
And that's basically it. And I'll answer any questions if you have on any of the items on our budget, our line items.
Okay, thank Mr. Chris.
Are we looking to, we retired a K-9 this past year, are we looking to bring another one in?
We're already on that, sir. We have another officer going next month, so we.
So that should be in this budget, this year's budget.
Well, actually, it's coming out of forfeiture, so it may not come out.
Oh, nice.
And then
Even
the
better.
school district, so the school district, what's gonna happen, the school district will then provide us also with a contract where they will be paying the food for the dog.
Nice.
Yes.
Very good.
Chief, I'm sorry, I
Tell
have
me.
a question.
Yes, sir.
A couple citizens asked me about this. Safety patrol
Yes, sir.
at schools. That was eliminated, wasn't it? And we don't have that right now, or?
No, we don't.
Has there been any discussions about maybe in a certain campuses bringing that back?
We
in
have.
some form?
Matter of fact, I met with the superintendent and we've discussed possibly bringing in 2 safety officers into our school district, or school resource officers is what we
Yes.
call them. They would fund half, we would fund the other half. So
Wait,
it would be one salary and they would fund
What
another.
I was referring to like traffic control,
Okay, so
like
safety, so you're talking about crossing guards?
crossing guards, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay, that's okay. No, now that item, I think it's been a couple of years maybe that it was eliminated.
No, we do have one, we budgeted, but
Yeah.
usually we only have like really one.
Correct, so he's been, that one individual's actually been taking care of the parks at night.
Okay.
So we don't have anyone to say per se, like a safety officer out there working the schools, that is correct.
Well, I see what Mr. Burke is
Yes.
leading to, is that, the school's structure has changed. There's going to be more traffic, more kids crossing the street, maybe it's something to look into.
Yes, ma'am. Matter of fact, we did have a meeting last week, Mr. Esparza, with the school district.
Yes.
And so, I apologize. So we did meet and we went over, because of now the campuses, the new campuses that are being built are gonna have more children coming into those schools. So we have to start preparing.
Yes.
So that is something that and honestly, I didn't bring about and didn't think of the school's safety on the crosswalks. But that's something that we will look at. I know we talked about having manpower out there. Yes, sir. But that's something that I will look at.
And I personally definitely would like to see canine patrol within the school, inside the school more often.
Yes,
For
ma'am.
drugs and stuff like that.
Yes, ma'am. You'll see that this year.
For control.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Burke, any other questions?
Yeah, it's good.
Mr. Molina?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I did have one.
Sure.
I noticed that we don't have an active SWAT, but we're dedicating $9,000 back into it. Are we gonna be teaming up, or what are we gonna be doing there?
So we're trying to develop and get our SWAT team up and going. There's some ammunition, there's some safety vests that are already expiring. So that's something that we will hopefully propose in the near future, but we hope to bring it back. Yes, sir.
And I want to apologize in advance. Some of the questions I ask aren't necessarily because I'm questioning the budget, but it's very interesting to see the fact that we're making moves like this. So thank you.
My pleasure.
We tried to put some in.
Yes.
We tried to
Thank
put
you.
some in.
I have one.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, on professional services, we didn't budget anything. Is that something that you felt, or we felt we didn't need, or?
On professional services.
Was that like certifications and stuff like that, training, classes?
What was that for, Vanessa?
Is there a specific division that you're seeing it in?
It's on,
Are you on page 45?
436.
it's on 45, yes.
The professional.
Under 70.
That was the contract chief
Yes.
position.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay. I think that's all for me. Council? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll have an answer for you on those school safety.
Thank you.
The next department we have is the Humane Department. And again, this department didn't have much change at all. Same amount of positions, questions?
Council, any questions? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
No, ma'am.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Okay, the next department we have is the Public Works Administration. We did not budget any positions or any expenses in this department.
Council, any questions? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
No.
Mr. Brown?
No, Mayor.
And Mrs.
No,
Bowen?
we're good.
Is this being, are we allocating, these duties are being handled by someone else, is that why? Okay, yes.
Yeah, they're coming out of the utility fund.
Yes. Okay, the next department we have is the Streets Department. Same amount of personnel. We did include about 95,000 in street repair maintenance supplies. Those are some of the bigger items in this department. The electricity is high, but that's due to the fact that it's all the street lights. But everything else is, everything is pretty much the same.
Hey, council, any questions on this?
Mike, real quick, if we decide to do capital improvement, do you feel like it would affect this position here and actually bring in some of those unbudgeted positions?
No, not necessarily bring in some of the budget position. We would have our additional crews working, but one of the things is, we would probably add additional money into this line item if you look at page 51, the 95,000 of street repairs. So definitely, so this is, a lot of the capital improvements we do are built into our budget, like this one, like water and wastewater improvements. They're in here automatically. I think we have over $1 million that's built into the budget for things of that sort. And so we technically could take this out and put it under capital improvements, minus about $20,000-$25,000 or so. But yeah, this is where we would either put it in here, or we would have that separate sheet to be able to do some more street repairs next fiscal year.
And I need to back up a minute. About, I don't know, it was the last council meeting before, we wanted to look at some renovations at the police department. But I didn't see anything in the budget for that. Will that be under capital improvement, or will that be under the budget once we figure out what we'd actually end up spending there?
Patrick, some of the money that we were talking about, the money you were talking about using for renovations, and Chief, were we talking about some of the art money maybe also, or the CARES money?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That's one of the targets that we're looking at, is trying to use some of that funding to be able to fund those projects. And I don't know which round that would fall in. It's going to kind of depend on timing and how fast we can get some of that stuff done. We've already started getting some of the pricing. I know police chief is kind of talk to architects, I believe, right, Chief?
Yeah.
So we're kind of assimilating, getting together all what it's going to actually cost, and once we get those figures more solid, then we can kind of figure out how we're going to fund all that part.
And some of the things that we have to do before the end of the fiscal year will end up in revised as we move forward. So the revised, of course, is changing, daily as we enter things into our system.
Right. 2 months. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bartlett, I have a general overview question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. But, we have the police and fire, we have their agreements, they have negotiations, they have a voice. In thinking about our hourly workers, where are we at with that? I mean, some of them are very far behind, and is there anything?
Sure, and we were talking about that
I know
even as of this morning with finance. So that's why I'm looking to add step increases. And if you remember, we could, and we're going to try to see what we can do on adding a little bit percentage to an increase as well. So we're working on that. But one thing that we have to remember is that, so this budget as presented, the idea is, can we live with this budget? So I'm looking at our reserves. I'd love to have the 9 months reserves. We have the 7.6. Okay, we're not there yet. If we were above the 9, there would be inclusions on here of things of that sort with capital improvements. But if y'all don't do anything, if y'all do not adopt a budget, this is the one that gets adopted. So when I present it, I'm making sure that it's something that we can live with, that we're going to live within our means, and it'll be fine. And as we go through this process, we hear the things that you guys want to do, especially with some of this, the difference between 7.6 and 6 months of reserves. And then we'll come back and then we can revise it, and then, you know, it'll be something that we're all doing together to accomplish those goals. And so, yes, we're going to be looking at that. But, you know, it's just not included on here, but, you know, I'm looking to you guys for that kind of direction as to how to move as well. And so we will have some new things brought forward, especially at the second budget.
Offhand, how many hourly employees are we talking about? We have
Yeah.
parks, sanitation, maintenance, or if you could, sometimes just,
Maybe like, maybe about 150,
Outside of fire and PD.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, like maybe,
There's a total of about 210 employees
Wow.
minus your fire, so yeah. about-
fire's about 30 some employees, and then PD's probably another 35, 40.
Yeah.
Probably about 100 or so. Just be a good number.
thank you.
Yeah.
Council, any other questions?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to-
Oh, you're fine, you're fine.
Okay.
Mary
And- Okay, the next department is the.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before we
I'm
go
sorry.
on, back on page 41, I apologize.
That's okay.
Just kind of chase my tail here for a minute. Back on 41, on budget worksheet, personnel services on the support, sorry.
43,611.
Yeah, 43,611, support services for the police department. Is it me or is that number not matching up, the 254 and the 272?
Hold on.
On your summary sheet, 41, page 41.
254 and 272.
So it's page 36 and then,
It's not matching up. I'm not sure if that includes the crossing guard, because, yes, that's what it is. Okay. On here, on page 36, this is, FTEs are like full-time employees,
Okay.
and the crossing guard is considered like a part-time, so I don't include him on here, but his salary is included there, I believe.
In that division,
Mhm.
yes.
About 18K.
so it's not on 36, but it's included on page 41.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I saw that and I was like, wait a minute, I did
But
not.
good catch.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa. Appreciate it.
No other questions?
That's all. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Okay.
distract
You're
you.
fine.
Engineering department.
Garage wasn't
is
much
next,
changes
yeah.
either. I don't know if you wanna, if you have any questions on garage? No? Okay.
Do y'all have any questions? I'm sorry, I didn't advance. Council, on
No,
garage,
I
any?
didn't have any on the ground.
Okay.
Engineering, there was a decrease, we no longer have, or we didn't fund one, position, I believe, the engineering tech 3, so that is the decrease in the engineering department.
Council, any questions? Mr. Chris?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Burt?
No.
And Mrs. Bowen? No, I'm okay, thank you. Mr. Esparza,
In the future, would we be looking at hiring an in-house engineer, or we're still using?
We're still using a contract engineer for MICE engineering. You know, for the work on an engineering side, you know, don't have the work for a full-time engineer. It's a pretty high salary. And we do pretty well with just contracting with ICE. You know, the turnaround time is really quick. When we need something, they're here. That most recently we're here for the traffic meeting that we had with Independent School District. You know, they were here with, gave them like a day and a half notice, and they're like, sure, you know, they were here on Friday at 9. And so they'll turn around reports or drawings or anything we need pretty quickly, and it works out.
Good.
Council, any other questions on this department?
Next is the Parks Department, same amount of budgeted positions. Not too many changes here that I can see. Let me see. The electricity is on down. Okay, there is a decrease in electricity. There was a decrease just because of a lot of the fields hadn't been used, I guess with COVID. Yes, I guess, because of COVID, sorry. So we saw a decrease in the electricity. But not too much else changed.
Okay, council, any questions in this department? Mr. Chris?
Yes. You know, last year, I think I'm asked a question too, that we have our library director slash our parks director all allocated to this department, and we have nothing to the library. I mean, I know there's a time split there. Did we intend on ever splitting that up? I know that our library is kind of like one of those things where we really, you know, it's open. It's a huge loss, and what we're doing is we're actually taking that position and not budgeting anything in there. So we're kind of making it look better than it is, even though somebody works there. I'd like to see that split between the two departments so we get a better understanding of what the library actually is. Because when we get to it in a little bit, we're going to see a huge loss, but we're not even saying anybody works there. You know what I mean? The director works there, and that job does take place there too. And we're allocating that in a lot of places where we're splitting it, but we're not doing it here. You know what I mean? So I think it should be fair to actually do that. And then the next thing is like you said, when it comes to the electricity, we had a huge drop. Do we still want to anticipate that, or should we go back to
I'm gonna review it
Yeah.
after.
you know what I mean? Because we're showing it, like you said, like if we're expecting COVID to continue forever, but we're in a world that's trying to open up. Yes, we're hitting these hills and valleys, but we're in a world that's trying to open up, and outside sports is coming back, and I think that we shouldn't look at COVID being around next year again. I'd rather be over budgeted and come in with the savings than the other way around.
Okay, I'll review it. Yeah, Vanessa already had me make a note to review it again, so I'll look at that again.
And then we can split the salary between the two departments.
And I'll leave that to y'all to figure out what the split is, because I know it's not the full time, but something does need to go in that direction, in my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Molina?
Good to see.
Mr. Burns? And Mrs. Bowman?
Yes. Yolanda, do we have a need for upgraded equipment? I mean, is there,
Equipment on,
for the Parks Department?
yes, ma'am, that list will follow.
Oh, okay, okay. I just want to make sure we address that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask on this one, are we planning on adding some more groundskeepers? I know that we've had some citizens reaching out in reference to some of the parks and different things.
We, Yolanda and I met the other day about some of the things and that we were struggling on, and I think that what Councilman Bowen touched on, the equipment, also updated equipment, we're down a lot because our equipment is old, and that's why we're looking at bringing, a capital improvement list with a lot additional mowers, and also, we need to have a backup, and some of the older equipment can serve as a backup also that's getting, repaired or maintained or something like that. So, I think that's gonna really help, not having that downtime. Because if we're not going to do that, if we're not going to improve any of the equipment, we were talking about contracting out when something was down. So the machine's down, and we hire a local company to come in and get things done. And so either way, if we don't get the capital expenses, a capital list approved, then we're going to have to see about contracting. So we want to make sure we take care of those
But
positions.
some of that small equipment, some of that equipment can come out of the golf course improvement fund, can it also? I mean, if we're talking about groundskeepers and stuff like that.
Not for parks, it would have to be used exclusively at the.
Exclusively,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, because
I
that's.
thought it could be
it's
used
for
like the
improvements just-
majority of it.
No, if it's coming out of the improvement fund for the golf course, it does need to.
Exclusively.
stay at-
Exclusively
Okay.
for there, okay.
Okay.
That's good to know, I didn't know that.
I thought it just had to be, the majority of services had to be performed at the golf course.
Is that-
But, no, I
No,
trust,
I mean,
I trust
we can
y'all. Y'all
share
are the
it.
ones
No, we
that have to
can.
review that on the daily, so.
Well, I just
But-
feel that, an employee needs to have the right tools to do his
Yes.
job.
Oh, yeah.
We need to make sure
You are
that
correct.
that's very high priority. Thank you, sir.
If we hold them to a level of expectation, they have to be able to have the
Make
equipment to
equip-
perform that
Right,
expectation.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. Council, any other questions? No? Okay.
Next, we have the neighborhood facility. There's no full-time employees in this department. We didn't budget anything. There's nobody really in there or anything, so we just didn't budget anything for that department.
Council, any questions in reference to this department? Mr. Chris? Mr. Molina? Mr. Chris, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No.
Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
we're good.
Mr. Molina?
No.
Moving
Fair enough.
along, moving along.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Okay, next we have the inspection department. We did move one clerk, to this department, so you'll see there's 2 clerks. So the salaries did increase. And, let me see if anything else. We did go up a little bit on the professional services, but that's just to pay for the inspectors. There's, I believe, a lot of activity going on. But that's
Council?
about it.
Any questions, council, in this department? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
No.
Mr. Brett?
Just clarification, did I catch you right that, for example, the electrical inspector would be under professional services? Okay.
Because we have contracts
Gotcha.
right now,
And
yes.
Bureau Veritas as well, for the other part. Now, we are looking at contracting with a plumbing inspector, similar to we do with how we do it with the electrical inspector. Our turnaround time is a little slower with Bureau Veritas when it comes to plumbing inspections. There's a maze that you have to go through, and we recently made contact. Patrick, do you want to talk about it? So what, last week?
Last week, yes. Last week we met with a local plumbing inspector, retired plumbing inspector. We're trying to hopefully bring him out of retirement, have him help us out. I think it'll be a little bit better customer service wise for our contractors, and that's kind of what we're looking at. That's the ultimate goal, is to try to make things happen smoothly when construction is happening. So we want to accommodate that the best we can. And Bureau Veritas hasn't been bad. They're just sometimes a little timely when we're trying to get turnaround times on things. We'd like to see things move fast for our contractors. So,
And we've been looking for, so on the electrical side and the building side, having a contract inspector really does help, because, typically, an employee is 8 to 5, but these inspectors are on call. They've been out there late hours of the night working on, if there's an inspection needs to get done for an AEP turn on. They get paid what we would pay Bureau Veritas, but we get that additional amount of service. and we've been talking about it. We wish we had somebody on the plumbing side, and we haven't been able to find one until recently to get that kind of service for our customers as well. So they kind of go above and beyond a lot. They're at the drop of a dime. We call them, they're there, or they need an inspection, they show up. We're same day. If it's late, it may be the next day on inspections.
And we like to keep that in the professional services because really the workload kind of shifts back and forth depending on what type of activity is happening. So here recently we had a lot of activity with the school district, all their projects that were going on. But for a little while it was really slow. There really wasn't the demand for as many inspections on a daily basis. So it's keeping it in a professional service on a contract basis kind of helps us go up and down with that.
Ms. Bowen,
No, thank you.
council, no other questions on this?
Okay, the next department we have is the codes department. This one you will notice an increase. The main increase is just, we hired some, I'll let Patrick, the temp,
So again, back to, it should be professional services or is it different?
this one we actually have under extra help.
Extra help, okay, so what that is our crews that go out and do our abatement. So, we have crews that at some point, if somebody isn't maintaining their property, at some point, we have to legally go in there and it's a long process, but we have to go in there and actually do the mowing, do the cleaning, do the boarding, things like that, and so that's what this crews do. They take care of that for us.
That used to be done with our parks department, and so that freed up a lot of time from them. Taking care of the abatements on the weedy lots and those things. And also from a administrative level, we started a new process on record keeping of mowing liens and weedy lots and those things. Since we started doing that, there hasn't been any real record keeping, so it's a manual process trying to find out how many mowing liens are on a particular property. And once we do it, so so many times, we're working with our legal also to try to find out how we can pursue those, and maybe can we foreclose on those mowing liens to get our money back, because it's just money that's being spent over and over. And so we worked with finance and worked with utility billing, and it took us, 30, 45 minutes to come up with a solution on how to record keep that and make sure we can run a report, because right now, actually, I think we can probably run a report right now and get a few, but not
where we
going
wanna
back
be.
20 years.
Right.
And our goal is to at least go back to fiscal year 2020 to be able to have those tracked, and we're going back and entering them into our system. So that's something that we started here recently.
And that really what drives the amount of mowers and the amount of times that we go out and mow properties, the weather, the rains, when the rains come and the grass grows here recently. I mean, and we're still battling it. We've got, we're kind of backlogged a little bit on catching up with those yards that need to be mowed, but that, and then the increase in the amount of code officers that we have also, the more eyes we have out there, the more letters that can go out, the more properties that can be addressed, and so that led to an increase in the amount of workload that was getting shifted over to parks. Of course, they were already having, struggling to keep up with the parks, so we had to separate that, take that back from parks and keep that with its own group of guys that were taking care of that. So.
And just to clarify for anybody watching them or that's listening now or might listen later, these are lots that are not owned by the city. These are privately owned lots that are not being maintained by the owners, that our employees have to go out and maintain because of their lack of effort or ability. Let me rephrase that. Effort or ability to do so. And then we get stuck having to pay somebody continuously to mow these lawns. And the efforts in order to actually apply those liens, how long does it take if you ever want to foreclose? Or how many do you need before you can even do it? Because with the average lawn mow, I don't know, $100, right, for a lawn, right? I'm just throwing something out there. Before you can foreclose on a property, how many of those do you have to have? How in debt do we have to get before staff can move on them?
And that's what we're trying to figure out. We want to make sure that of course, we follow the law on that. And we've had a meeting with our city attorney as well, talking about those things. And right now, it keeps on adding on and adding on until this property either gets sold, then those mowing liens will get get paid, or if it gets foreclosed on for taxes. A lot of these are absentee owners, they don't live here, or, somebody died and the relatives don't live here anymore, it's just sitting there in this state, and those are what happens. And so, we want to make sure that we get paid back, and we're trying to find a way to do it. So the record keeping is very important for us. It had never been kept as far, manual records, sure, we'd have to go through records to see how many there are, but it's something that's necessary, and, it's the things, we're doing over and over and over, and get tired of it after a while because we're having to expand the crews. We have to have special crews to do that. It used to be parks, but there's so many of them that now we need additional resources, and we're paying for it through the budget. And so we're gonna figure out a way to make it better. We're always gonna have some, but, the goal is not to have so many in that category. And if we can take action on it to pay ourselves back for that, we will.
Because, if we just look at the $100 a trip scenario, we're looking at mowing 500 yards next year. We're a lawn company.
Yeah, pretty much sums it
We're
up.
becoming a lawn company for people who have abandoned their property. And, it's not, I say this because there are a lot of citizens' concerns out there where, hey, this lawn, just driving in my, to City Hall, you see them where the lawn is knee-high, waist-high, and it's because of the rains. But those are the same ones over and over every 2 months or a month or whatever it is that our staff are out there mowing. And we can try to move on these things, but all we're doing is performing a lawn service until, a dime drops somewhere, somehow.
And there's some that when I say that, we're gonna have those all the time, it's just the number of them. And so some, you can't take action on, similar to when there's back taxes owed. There's some places that the law firm that handles that for all the entities, they can't take action on if there's a bankruptcy or things like that on a piece of property, and it prevents you from acting on them. Or if there's a home, somebody lives there, and you won't be able to, if it's a homestead, you won't be able to take action on that too. But those aren't the majority of the problems that we have. The majority of the problems we have, we could probably find a solution for outside of that, and we will get on that.
Well, it's first steps toward it, right? Toward
Yeah.
the situation that's been there a long time.
Yeah, the first one was really just getting up with a record-keeping solution and being able to run reports.
How bad is it? Like on average, how many lawns do we do a month? On average, I know it's rainy season.
It kind of varied. It wasn't as many in here recently. We got overloaded with them, and we were really overwhelmed with the amount of lines. So we're still, I know as of yesterday, we were probably about 60 behind. So that was probably maybe 1 month's worth of work, half a month. That was
Half a month.
That was June through July. We were already at 60. So,
Okay.
but again,
on average, like when you break it out over the year, like what is it? Is it like?
I'd have to run some numbers to see if we can. So
A lawn a day?
a lot. We're doing a couple lawns a day, depending on how big they are and how bad they are. Sometimes, if they're pretty bad, it takes a little longer to deal with them. And it's been an adjustment. We've had to adjust and get equipment. We're still in the process of getting equipment to be able to handle some of those types of different lawns, because some of these, it's not just put a mower in there. It's chainsaws and pole saws and all kinds of things that some of these yards are really, really bad.
And
Some
we've
of them
seen-
hadn't been dealt with in years.
Right.
And we've seen it where they go out and they're hauling like junk. That's just thrown in the yards too, not refrigerators, but like washing machines or just pieces of metal and everything. And in order for them to even go in and mow it, they gotta get to where they can and haul this stuff off. So there's a lot to it, aside from just the mowing. It's a pain.
Do we need to allow, is there a way to kind of allow for extra help to kind of organize this data to where we could kind of get a bigger picture? Not that I want to waste a lot of time doing that, but to see just how serious this is, because obviously this has been there for a while. And
Yeah,
we just
since-
keep,
There's liens that go back to,
Allocate somebody to play catch up.
Yeah.
Just the
Well,
definition of insanity, right? Just keep on putting a Band-Aid on it.
that's
We
Terry-
did allocate, we had a
allocated to-
volunteer.
Terry volunteered. and-
I graciously volunteered.
Thank
We
you,
well,
Terry.
we don't want volunteers, right? That's why
Well,
we're here today,
I
so.
think
you know,
what will
thank you,
happen
Terry.
is,
Appreciate
because
it.
what we want to do is we want to get to a point, and I think we talked about, she'll get us caught up to 2020.
Yes.
And get 2020 forward. And after that, if we want to go and start entering all these in, we're going to have to get some outside help. But we just want to get 2020 current to be able to kind of get an idea, because some of these are the same properties
Right.
over and over.
Oh, I'm sure it
And
is.
so, it may be 100 properties you may have to enter in. And remember, the first time it's entering in a whole account, record keeping wise, and then it's just entering dollar amounts, so a receivable for us. And so.
The new system, it's setting up the vendor and then
Right.
just adding the lines to
And then
it.
adding to it.
Once we're
Data
caught
entry.
up, I can train somebody downstairs to go ahead and.
You enter it every
daily.
time.
Mhm.
That's it.
It's building it into our process is really what we're trying to do. That's our end goal, is to build it into our process so we have those numbers anytime we need those numbers. But right now, we're building it. And so once we get it built and set where we need it, then building into that process is gonna help us maintain this a little bit better. Also, you mentioned extra help. We did budget money in the extra help area, and so that doesn't, so sometimes we may need only 2 mowers, sometimes we need 5 mowers, so it varies on the demand. And so some of that demand can come from, if we needed to hire extra help, we could use one of those temp agencies to help come in and organize that stuff. The agencies that we use have all different types of employees that they can send us. So that's in there. If we need that, if we get to a point where we need that, we'll address it.
But extra help, I'm talking like.
Yeah.
And,
you know,
He's talking about
yeah, and going back to the record keeping, once that's all keyed in, our system has the capability of printing invoices, statements out, and we can mail those out so that at least we have proof that we've sent that out, we've notified the property owners, and they're aware that there's liens pending on the properties. So
Is it possible to utilize someone that would be like an internship or something that could enter that data?
We
Yeah,
did.
To offset
for-
costs.
and once we get it organized, so there's gonna be, downstairs, right now, we're having, finance, Terry's gonna be entering that in as far as from start to finish. But long-term, the process is gonna be, that codes is gonna enter in the property into our Code 10 system. And finance will probably be entering in once the lien is done. So we're working on getting the template built.
Right.
And having somebody that'll know exactly how it works on both sides, getting downstairs trained at both sides as well. And then once we get that done, then if we want to go back past, we will have to bring somebody in that's gonna sit there and go through files.
Yeah.
Key them in. But we want to make sure our guys, at least 2 of our folks here know how to get that done.
At least it's the first steps toward a
Yeah.
paper trail to say, okay, this is our documentation to
Mhm.
show that, look at how much we've paid, and these are the kind of the hot
Right.
spots that we need to kind of they're not gonna go away. I mean, we can just keep hiring people to go out and landscape, but I mean, for how long? Like you said,
Yeah.
just turns into an endless pit. Thank you for looking into that. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Mr. Burt?
Yeah, kind of, I guess maybe Barbara. I remember a long time ago, but as a lad, there were summer programs. There were grants for summer programs and neighborhood kids being hired to do jobs like this. With the federal funds coming in, grants that are available, is there anything with summer youth programs for jobs?
I'll have to check again, haven't seen anything recently, but I'll have to look for youth programs. I've been researching other programs. I'll check Workforce Commission.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know it's another time and space, but
I know Parks and Wildlife
He was a
doesn't
lad.
have
I know.
How long ago was that?
yeah.
it might be
Kids don't even know what a lawnmower is.
private foundations
Uh-huh.
would consider, there's a list
My
of
kids do.
top-living private foundations in the state of Texas, and I look at those periodically, I can look back at those, but I'll check and see if I can find anything about summer youth programs.
That'd be good.
Might get some off the streets too. Just thought.
Mrs. Bowen? Sorry, was that all?
Get out of here.
I've had constituents ask me the process that the codes department goes out there. Can you just elaborate a little bit? Because I know that some homeowners that, you know, they're actually renting that home to somebody. Do they get the letter, or do you do the research and go through the appraisal district and send it to that address, or?
We send it to the property owners.
The property
So
owners.
once a property is identified as having some sort of code violation, whether it be a weedy lot, you know, rubbish in the yard, you know, whatever the violation is, we contact the property owner, we send them letters. A letter goes out a couple different ways. It's sent through regular mail and through certified mail. Once that process, once they receive the letters, there's a timeline that we have to legally allow them to
Right.
remediate the problem themselves. And if they don't get to that, and it varies on the type of code violation.
Oh, okay.
But for instance, a weedy lot, which is one of our more common ones, it's a 10-day wait. Once that 10 days is up, then we're allowed to go in there and abate the problem ourselves. That's where these extra help crews come in. Then after that, we have to give them a certain amount of time to be able to pay for the cost that it cost us to do that. And then after those, I believe it's 30 days, after that, it gets filed with the courthouse as a lien, on the mechanic's name on the
You
property.
use the appraisal district for ownership information.
Correct.
Right, okay, that's what I
Not
was,
just the address that they went to.
right.
Right.
That's what I
And
was
sometimes
told.
we do, if there's a property owner that, you know, our code officers will make contact with the person actually
Living at the
there,
home.
living at the home too.
But you still
so-
do the process of
Right.
sending the.
We're also working on what we're calling door hanger type program, where we maybe don't have to go through the letter process, because that's timely sometimes. A simple, hey, can you cut your yard, and it gets done the next day. We don't have to waste all that time on sending letters and waiting when it can
Like a
just be done.
little warning kind of thing.
Right, where we don't have to go through that full process, but it wouldn't replace it, it would just supplement it and
Got
try
it.
to help get us some compliance a little sooner.
That would help. Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that.
Council,
Thank you, Mayor.
any other questions?
Just a statement, you know, that I know this is not a big dollar amount. We're only talking about $50,000 in the grand scheme of our whole budget. But really what we're doing here is we're trying to make the community look better. We're trying to make people's neighborhoods look better in the same efforts that Councilman Molina recently wanted to reinstate that board for buildings and stuff like that. So it's just the city trying to make an effort to make things look better, but also trying to express to the citizens that it is a process. And it is not easy, and it's basically throwing money away. And every time we have to go mow these lawns, it's taxpayer dollars that are paying them. So, you know, let's reach out to your neighbors and stuff like that. If you know who they are, let's put them to work on their own stuff if you can do it also, and then we can make things better that way.
Yeah, help each other out if you can, you know, because there's, might be a neighbor that's elderly that's really needs that help, so. It's, well, what do we call it? Alice proud? Be proud. Thank you, Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next department we have is the library department. We did include, 2 clerks in the library department, so we will see an increase in the salaries. Again, like Mr. Esparza mentioned, this was, for, what was it for? I'm sorry. Accreditation for, some grants, to make sure we could still receive that funding. And, I believe that's about it. That was the only really big, change in that department.
And we'll go back and split the
Yes,
the
we'll,
director's salary, like Mr. Chris.
yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Council, any questions on this department? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Molina?
No.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
I have more just of a comment. I know some citizens had reached out and said if you could utilize them, they're school teachers, they'd be happy to go in and do some children programs. I can get you those numbers, so
Volunteer service.
just to let you know. Okay. I have no other questions. We'll move on.
Okay, the last department we have in the general fund is the, grants department. No changes in this department.
Council, any questions in this department? Mr. Chris?
No, no, we're good, thank you.
Mr. Molina?
Just a curious question, what's the advertising for?
That sometimes for the grants, you have to, kind of go out for bids and things like
Okay.
that. And so you have to
I
do
figured.
notice,
Publishing
notice.
RFPs
Right.
and RFQs, especially for
In the
CDBG,
newspapers.
which included not only the regular CDBG through Texas Department of Agriculture, but also the CDBG through the General Land Office,
Okay.
where we were awarded a little over $6 million for Virginia Street area.
Yes.
Right.
That was
So
awesome.
figured.
advertising for those types of things.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
appreciate it.
And they, and for record-keeping purposes, those charges are in grant development, so they can track it with a
Sure.
grant.
Okay, interesting.
Some of those are allowed to be reimbursed after the
Right.
fact, so we do
Figured.
go back and we'll reclass those to those funds if they're. put in.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Bowen?
Ms. Reeves, on subscriptions, do you think that's qualifies enough money for, because I know they're updating a lot of the Texas Water Development Board, all those subscriptions that we usually,
This was, according to the budget reports we get are like for telephone and the cloud. the
okay.
Cloud storage. So I looked at the monthly charges and I just averaged them
Oh, okay.
to come up with,
So it's not subscriptions for like resources that you use?
correct. No, it's internal.
So you don't need any funding for that?
No, most of the state and federal agencies have newsletters, and all you have to do is register your email address and
Okay.
you get updates.
Okay, just want to make sure you have what you need.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
If you'd like, we can start on the solid waste one.
Yeah, that's it for the utility fund, and of course, that's what the property tax portion funds. We can move on to the first of our enterprise funds, which is the solid waste fund. Landfill, garbage collection, and brush pickup.
Okay. Council, you're ready to move. Is that okay? No other questions? We'll move on. Okay. Move on to our solid waste.
We can start on page 83, that's the sanitation department. Well, this actually includes sanitation and the recycling center. One change we did make here is the equipment operator from the recycling center. The employee is now helping also at the landfill as a scale clerk, I believe that's the position. Yes, scale house clerk. So, we kind of moved that salary there. So that's why you won't see a position under the recycling center. But the other positions, the other employees, the budget stayed the same.
And there will be some requests from Robert on capital improvements for the solid waste fund.
Council, any questions in this department? Mr. Chris?
No, I'll come back around to some stuff.
Okay. Mr. Molina?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Burke?
Yeah, I have a general question, overview question on the landfill. Just maybe for clarification. How much usage do we get from, or can we get usage from outside our own area, from our city? And is there any advantage to getting more customers from outside of our area, or does it hurt our situation?
Yeah, well, so, for us, it is I mean, and he'll explain better, but I'll tell you how I look at it.
Yeah, how you
We-
look at
we'd
it.
like, we would really like to not get anything but our citizens'
Okay.
garbage. I mean, landfills are expensive. We did go up on, a couple years back, we went up on
few
the,
years back, yes, sir.
on the rate for outside the city limits.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, and I know we got some pushback from people outside, and it's like, this is not your landfill, this is the citizens of Al's landfill, and we gotta keep it open. And so, you know, that's not a whole lot of landfills like ours left, and a lot of them privatized, so, but percentage-wise,
And with the amount of usage that we have and the amount of space left to us, it's to our advantage to just limit it to the city of Alice. Allow the city, the county governments to utilize it. But it's better for us at this point in time, until we go out for more land purchase, a bigger area, then yes, we could open it up. However, we do have to meet the minimum requirements of getting our money back, at least for what a new cell is gonna cost us. So landfilling is expensive.
Yes.
There are some landfills in our area that were charging up to $200 a cubic yard, or I'm sorry, a ton. $70 a ton is a fairly reasonable price for those people not inside the city limits.
yeah, so for us, it's like, yeah, we'll let you, dump here, but if you're not, one of our customers or in citizen in the city limits, and it's gonna cost you, because we do have to make up that lost space.
Have to break even.
That's good, yeah.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes, I do have a question for you, Robert. How far in the future do you foresee us needing another cell? I mean, because is there space out there
We are
already?
currently in the process of, I think next week, or this week, we have a bid opening for our next cell.
Oh, okay.
And that should last us 5 to 7 years, depending on usage.
Right, okay.
More space, more landfill space, I'm meaning purchasing properties away from that portion that we already have.
Oh, okay. Okay, good to know. Good job. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chris, back to you.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I just have general question on, I wanted to ask, what was the audit adjustment in 2020?
That was
Are
last
you
year's,
looking on
The very, on
balance?
page 75.
yeah.
Sorry.
I was gonna ask that one later.
That is, when we were working on audit, our auditor requested that we figure out our fund balance based on the unrestricted cash amount. So he had me change that, and what it mainly is, and I think I brought copies just in case you don't ask. Hold on.
Because while you look that up, that's actually not even the budget year that we're in now, that's
Yeah.
the year before, yeah. Because I was gonna ask that, but later, because it wasn't part of this one, but
So,
I
Well,
knew the
it
answer to
carries
something.
over, so I was
Yes.
just kind of wanting
Yeah.
to.
So the reason for that is because of landfill closure costs. When, it's from the balance sheet, so that landfill closure cost is what kind of turned it the other way. But he said, in case y'all did worry, the cash flow for the solid waste fund is good, though. We're at about 3.4 million. In case you kind of got worried about that, that's just, it's more of the fund balance, the way he wanted me to use, or the amount he wanted me to use was from a balance sheet, but he said on cash, we are good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had the
Shows
same
up also
concern, and then I
in
started looking at for the
Yeah.
annual, and seeing that you're right in that same number, but there was that huge jump from last
Yes.
year.
The
So,
landfill closure cost was 7 million.
7.
and that money's set aside.
So
So
it's
you're
kind of
saying
like
that
it's
we,
reserving that money, kind of. You know what
yeah,
I
we're
mean?
not even reporting the money that's earmarked right now. So is that referenced somewhere else in here?
Not in the budget, but it's reflected, I guess, in that fund balance amount. That's why it's the opposite way, because
I think it should end up in here somewhere, because we are talking about several $1 million, that it needs to be somewhere in the
You
budget.
could always go back and put a footnote on
Yeah.
that page.
Yeah,
to
just because, I mean,
reference that.
Something.
that's money that does exist, that just doesn't show up anywhere in here now, and then you have a huge drop, so I think it should be reflected in here,
And we do
even
have
as a
a-
footnote or something.
we do have a landfill
We do
closure
have,
fund. Mhm.
Okay, well then it should be in there, right?
Oh, yeah, landfill development.
There's a landfill development and then there's a closure, post-closure, that's what it's called, yes.
But we don't have that one in here, right?
Yes,
it's in the
they're-
back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're further back.
Is it under?
The appendix?
Oh, the
It's
appendix
under
is
tab 9, yeah,
special funds? Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it
And we
ends
just
up there.
don't have it budgeted this year to close, that's why there's really nothing, it just shows the revenue coming in to close it. It begins on page 189. Oh, we have about 1.5 in that fund balance. But yeah.
Where did you say we would see that, the funds, the 7? Because this one shows 1.5.
The amounts it was from the audit. So on, if you had a copy of the audit on page 25, that's how we got those amounts. And then he said if y'all were worried, y'all could look on page 29 for the cash flow.
So page 25 and page 29?
In the audit, yes.
In the audit.
In the audit.
We were discussing these during our audit. He wanted to know how we got our fund balances, and he wanted me to do the enterprise funds this way.
Yeah, because I was just concerned because
It totally
says-
flipped.
yeah, it says balanced budget, and then we're looking at a negative, so.
Yes.
And on our transmittal letter, we showed also that it
Yes.
was a surplus, but yet we're showing negative, so I was just
Yes.
wanting to clarify that. Okay.
Yeah, remember, I mean, that's this auditor's way of doing this. But auditors before didn't see it that way.
It
And
was
so,
a current assets minus current liability kind of thing.
I wanted to ask also, there was another, let's see. Sorry, let me flip through here. And I can't remember where I saw it, but it had something to do with the bank charges. I saw some, I think it was like 60,000.
Page 80.
Okay.
Mary,
Is it 80?
Page 80, yes. I was looking at that too. 62,000.
Those are again a lot of the credit card fees. Every time they pay their bills, there's a little fee that's kind of tacked on.
on our receivables. So, I mean, that's.
Credit card processing fees.
Yeah, and that's, that would be, so, between that and the water on the utility fund and the,
General fund, yeah.
and the solid waste fund, those two numbers should equal anything when somebody pays their water bill. That'll be all the processing fees.
Okay. Council, any other questions on this department? Mr. Chris?
No.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Barth and Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
No? Okay.
The last department we have in the solid waste fund is the landfill. We kind of touched on that. Not too many changes on this department. Do y'all have any other questions for the landfill department?
Council? Mrs. Bowen?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Barth? Mr.
No,
Molina?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Chris?
No, I didn't see anything there to address.
We can go to the utility fund.
Vanessa,
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
On here, on equipment repair, maintenance services, we went down to 60,000, but we had spent more in 20? Or, okay, I see, never mind, I did an adjustment. One, the revised also, it's 114, and now it's 60, so.
Yes, they did have some repairs on, was that the contractor? Yes. But we did receive we We did get a new compactor.
Okay. Mary. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Vanessa.
Sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can go to the utility fund, and we can finish with that one for today. Water, wastewater distribution, wastewater collection. And we can start with there.
We can start with utility billing, page 96, 97. You will see a decrease, but this is because we did move some of the clerks out of this department into the library and into inspections. And that was the biggest change from this department.
Council, any questions? Yes.
I want to go back to page 92 where it talks about revenues.
Okay.
Charges for services, you increased it by 270,000.
Yes.
And that's higher than the previous several years. I mean, what are we looking at that's going to?
Those were some of the numbers we received based on the new meters. They're supposed to be a lot more accurate, and that's what they had projected. Actually, they projected more. We're a little bit like we didn't go.
Yeah. Okay.
full.
Good. What about how do the back payments for this last year, where we allowed for people now to start making payments on stuff where they didn't pay over the COVID when we gave them the leniency? Are we going to see it, or is that even a significant enough number for it to make a difference moving forward? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they're going to be making payments instead of to catch up.
Well, they've already been billed, so it's reflected here. It would just be on the receivable and the cash side. You know what I'm saying?
But it'll just be a line item to mark it back as revenues, or it's just.
Once they're billed, that revenue is already reflected in here.
Okay. Very good.
Like I said, it'll just, once they start making these payments, you'll see more like the cash go up and the receivable go down.
Okay. Very good.
Mr. Moody?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Brown? No, nothing. Thank you.
The next department is the metering department. This department had no changes, same amount of employees.
Council, any questions on this department? Mrs. Brown? I'm sorry, what page are we on again?
The
98.
metering department's on page
98?
99.
Okay, that's where I'm at, okay. No, I don't have anything on that one. I'm good. Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Modena?
No, I'm good.
And Mr. Chris?
The lease purchase interest is that on the new meters, correct?
Yes, you're on page 100, yes.
Yes.
This is the general service department for the utility fund. That lease purchase payment is for the meters. This year, or next year, it will only be interest. The following year, it will be a principal and an interest payment.
And we're seeing that being offset by the revenue increase.
Yes, they're supposed to be able to pay for the payments.
Themselves.
And then here again, you'll see the bank charges. These are the credit card fees mainly. And then the insurance payment.
Okay, council, any other questions? Mr. Chris?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, the next department is the water production. Let's see, on this one. There is a decrease, I know on salaries, Mr. Duarte made some changes on his employees, but I believe he had brought that to council during one of the amendments.
If you remember, we have We had a water superintendent and a wastewater superintendent, and when our wastewater superintendent retired, we combined the two positions and have one over both.
Council. Mrs. Bowen, any questions on this?
No, thank you.
Mr. Price?
Just a comment, just to make my yearly comment regards to whenever something becomes available, be it a grant, be it some funds, for increased security there, increased security of the waters.
Mr. Moody?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Cruz?
No, ma'am.
I wanted to ask on the chemicals. We spent $413,622, and then it was revised at $250, and then the proposed is $275. What was
Yes, Mr. Duarte, I'll let him explain. He's been saving us money.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, that all goes back to process control. You're also gonna see that on the wastewater side. You see where our chemical cost is going down, but our environmental testing and supplies is going up, just because we're doing more and more and more testing. This is something that's required by TCEQ for the process control, and in doing that, we are saving a lot of money on chemicals. It's a process that has been discussed before. It's about curves. We're at a certain curve, and we want to go on the downslope of the next curve and the next curve and the next curve until we find the right curve where it's going to be saving us chemical, which in turn equals saving some money. And the guys that we have operating now are very up to the challenge. And with the process control, we're also doing a lot of monitoring, so that helps us know where we're at, where we're going, where we've been in the past, and that equals to savings. The only challenging thing right now with chemicals is the market's very volatile, and we might see some increases. I know we were receiving some letters from certain vendors that they wanted to do some increase on our product. You're going to see that also with piping and supplies on the main construction special project side. So that's why that 275 is there for this year versus what we're looking at the final year for this year. And just because the market is extremely volatile.
The way we're spending $20,000 to save $200,000, and also just keeping a tighter guideline on the water quality as well.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions on this, in this department? Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am.
Okay, the next department we have is the Maintenance and Construction Department. There is a bit of an increase. One of them was on personnel. We did increase our overtime just because there has been a lot of leaks and things like that. So we were just making it a little bit more in line with what it probably will be. Another line item we went up on was utility charge-out expenses. Like I said, just because of all the leaks and the old lines, just giving them a little bit more money to work with. Again, at the bottom, purchase property services, we gave them some money for water, wastewater services. But that's about it. We left about the same for water system and wastewater system improvements. Everything else is pretty much the same.
Council, any questions? Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Okay. Mr. Molina?
So 40,000 in overtime? Okay. Have we ever done that before?
In years past, it had probably been pretty high, but they were really tight on their overtime recently. But I think the workload is just kind of getting a little crazy. Or, what do you think?
Aging infrastructure is getting older and you have to repair more leaks.
Yeah, I'm not being critical, I'm just saying like
No.
that's a big jump, from, 14,000, whatever. so.
Currently, the overtime is at 33,000. In 2017, it was about the same at 33. That's where we ended the year.
Wow, okay. Kind of a testament to the condition of our infrastructure. Okay,
Definitely.
thank you.
Mr. Chris?
No, ma'am. Actually, hold up, I do have to go back. On some of this stuff here, with the, can any of the relief funds be allocated towards these individuals? Because some of this stuff is gonna be the maintenance side of the change outs and so forth that we just applied, because this is a testament when you see that we're at 33 overtime, we're at $150-something thousand in actual employee wages, plus overtime, where just 2 years ago we were at 114,000. That there's a dire need for people out there to fix these problems that they say keep occurring, that we get citizen input every day of the needs of our infrastructure. And that's why, I'd like to see if any of this can fall in there in moving things forward, because a lot of these guys will be doing the same repairs that'll be our infrastructure improvements that we're going to be doing with the relief funds. I kind of spoke in a circle there, but it's just a testament that we have these problems, like you said, that we're applying these relief funds to actually try to improve these in some areas. Will it offset any of these salaries? I mean, something to look into. Yes.
Any other questions?
Okay. The next department we have is the wastewater treatment plants. Here you do see a little bit of an increase on the environmental testing sampling, but that's just like what Mr. Duarte had mentioned about more testing going in. And we did go down on the chemicals. It's just that little offset that he mentioned earlier. Chemicals, we went down from about 79,000 to 48,000. And then environmental testing, we went from 35 to 55.
Okay, council, any questions on this department? Mr. Chris?
Environmental testing and sampling has gone up by 20, or projected to go up by 20.
Yes.
Is there
Again, like I mentioned earlier, with the process control that we're doing on the water side, now the commission is requiring that on the wastewater side as well.
Very good.
And it's just a constant testing to see why we're at where we're at. If we make changes, we want to know why we're doing them. Therefore, metering is involved. We're purchasing meters and purchasing more, and having more samples being analyzed in order to have that data available for them.
Thank you.
The chemicals did go down about 30,000, if you look at that, so that's where he's saying
They offset. Mr.
and a little bit of a savings too.
No questions. Thank you, Ms.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chris, were you?
No, I was done. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Mr.
Board.
Burns? Mrs. Bowen? No, thank you. I did have, let's see where it was. I saw something that went up to 75. Was it in supplies? Let's see. Sorry, let me see if I can find it. We can come back to it. I can't find it right now.
Oh, here it is, I'm sorry. It was on the facility repairs, maintenance supplies, from 33.5 to 56,000.
They were gonna be doing some updates, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, to the lab portion of the building, so that's where that money is.
Where the-
Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Oh,
And
Thank
then again, it's also part of the process.
okay, thank you.
Just to update and make sure that that part is done correctly, they have the adequate spacing and stuff.
Very good. Okay, no other questions, Council?
Okay, the last department we have is special projects. Not too many changes here. There was also an increase in overtime, but this department does help out the maintenance and construction a lot of times, correct? On leaks and things like that, so sometimes they do get some overtime.
Council, any questions in this department? Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Molina?
Nope, it's good.
And Mr. Chris?
Just a quick question. Do we have an employee count from a year ago? Because of the, I'm just curious on that jump. If we have just an idea, because we're looking at like about $100,000 difference when everything's said and done.
On the salaries?
Yeah, on salaries and overtime. I'm just curious what the count was, because I want to say we brought it back and we added an employee or two or shifted something around in the
I think we
budget.
changed like maybe the title and the requirements.
Uh-huh.
Well, and then I believe it includes Joe's salary also, where he took on more departments.
Okay, that's what it was. I was like,
yes.
I knew there was something that we adjusted there
Yes.
that would make that huge differential, and I was just curious what it was.
I think it was him,
that's what it
and
was.
then there were some employees where they did change the title and the duties, I believe.
That's all it was. Thank you.
And Vanessa, before we move on, or I know we're gonna come to a stopping point, but I just wanted to ask, is this similar to what we discussed earlier as far as the audit adjustment? Because in 20, there was
Yes,
that
yes.
4 million.
It was for the enterprise funds, yes.
Okay.
And I believe you can find on those pages I gave you on the audit, it's the same, you'll see utility fund and solid waste on those sheets as well.
I don't have a copy, I think, of the audit, but
Okay.
I'll see if I can get one. What page
We can
would this
email it
be
to you.
reflected on?
It, let me see. Oh, right here, 25 and 29, yes.
29?
25 and 29. Yes.
Okay. Council, any other questions before we close on this? Mrs. Bowen? No, thank you. Mr. Burke?
Nothing.
Mr. Molina?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And Mr. Chris?
No, I think I'm good.
But Mayor, that concludes the three big funds, the general fund, solid waste fund, utility fund, and it's probably a good stopping point. We could go to, we can plan for our next budget workshop to include the rest, the airport fund and golf course fund, multi-use fund, debt service, hotel occupancy, and then capital improvements. And that'll, that's quite a bit, but I think we can get all that done in our next budget meeting.
Yeah, I don't think that those, that larger list of items
Yeah.
will even equal the amount of information that we just went through. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And then after that, we can come back and we can do a general overview again to see what, some of the things that we want to.
where you bring it all back
look at.
together.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan to me, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So then, so we'll be coming back on the 10th for our next budget workshop. That budget workshop will be a public hearing. So the public, if you have any questions on the proposed budget and what we've gone over. You're welcome to come and speak on those items. And that's August 10th, and is it at 10 o'clock?
It'll be 10 o'clock again.
10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so if we're done with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, first and second, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, sign. Okay, so meeting adjourned.
Thank you,
It is
staff.
12:13.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks,
everybody
y'all.
being here.
Good day.